How you doing? You got Stu here and Doug Shard.
I'm the
known as a lot of things.
I'm the second-hand host.
The second-hand host.
Happy to be here.
We are here in, what would we call this location?
The G-Town Jump Talk.
The G-Town Jump Talk. I am down here in the Republic of Tejas.
Heck yeah, you are. Do you feel freer?
I feel freer. As soon as I landed, I think when we crossed over the state line, the plane just got more patriotic.
It got hot too. It got hotter.
Yeah, it's been nice this week. It's in the 70s. I gotta say, this has been pretty 80s, maybe low 80s this week. Very nice for someone coming that is in the 30s and 40s.
It's like in the 30s up there in the Great White North. Yeah.
So yes, definitely here in the free Republic of Texas. Yes. Here with my buddy Doug, as you guys know from the show, was on many times.
33 years.
We've known each other, yeah. The show hasn't been on 33 years.
We've known each other for 33 years.
I didn't know it was that long. But you got in the opening when those pictures are rolling by, a couple of pictures of Doug in there, and in his other old house we've done this show.
Yes.
With Tim and with different people and stuff like that. Toby, yep. So you got the two of us tonight. We're going to talk through some current events and talk through things going on. I was hoping we could get Rob, our unpaid producer, down here from Arkansas, but couldn't make it happen. So hopefully you can hear us well, and we kind of get this cool Take on Me cartoon.
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah,
it's like we're
you see it?
It's either Take on Me or we're like Jedi Knights at the end who've moved on and become one with the Force.
We have kind of a ghostly look to
at the end of Return of the Jedi. Yeah,
it was worse earlier until we did some lighting changes, but
we tried. Yeah,
so down here, we did a little episode here tonight for you guys this week, talking about kind of just some current. We've had a lot of guests on recently and things like that. But tonight we're just we like doing the in-person shows and just talking about some current events and things that are happening just in the world and in our country.
Yes.
I'm wearing my Trump winery hat tonight. That is, it is. Everyone thinks, oh, you got tea for Troy.
Oh, no. I thought it was for Texas or
Texas. No, Trump winery. So.
Oh my God!
Wearing look at the shirts.
We're representing it. Gear for Grunts.
Gear
for Grunts. Peace, love, Gear for Grunts.
Yeah,
the whole thing.
So we got our Gear for Grunts shirts on and representing there. But yeah, man, what another crazy. We talk about it all the time on this show that whether Biden's or Trump's first term or Biden's, that we're just like. We could just wait till the day of the show, pretty much. And there's events to talk. There's news.
Show prep.
We don't have to like Google and go back a week or two to find something to talk about. We can just look at this afternoon or
content-rich environment.
Yeah, or look in the last day or so. And so obviously one of the biggest things going on. I mean, there's a lot of legal stuff going on. We were talking about this before the show.
Right.
Kind of felt after how bad the election went for the Democrats. And how overwhelmingly the country, gave President Trump a mandate, and both in a popular vote, an electoral vote, the House, the Senate, everything else. That's like, okay, the Dems have pretty much done all they could do. They can't do anything else to stop them. But man, lo and behold, they're persistent.
Yep.
They've found the judges.
Yes, they have. They've activated the judges, and they're, obviously operating well outside whatever jurisdiction or district they're in.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get them wherever they can. They're judge shopping, which is a term I'd never heard of till probably a month or two ago. But I mean, this is their new technique, right? They've tried impeachments. I mean, they've tried assassinations. They've tried, all kind of stuff, and they try to get him not, thrown off the ballots, not even be voted on.
Right.
But it's now the judges, and whether it's a judge who's trying to stop the president from pretty much doing everything he said he was going to do during the campaign.
Yes, just fulfilling.
Right. And now we got, judges in DC area that are ruling on people in Texas, and the Supreme Court had to get involved and trying to stop the deportation of using the Aliens Enemy Act or Enemy Aliens Act, and gang members and terrorist groups and all that kind of stuff. And now you got them wanting to, got the Supreme Court involved. And now they're trying to mandate that we bring back, the administration brings back an known MS-13 member from El Salvador. We just had recently a congressman from Maryland fly down there thinking they were just going to hand him over to him.
Or at least go visit him in the prison and get some video.
Isn't that what the Red Cross is for?
You would think Amnesty International or something. Isn't that what they do?
Yeah, I mean,
that's still a thing. I don't even know.
I'm trying to think, short of a few of our congressmen like Mark Mullins and a few that actually launched private efforts to get people out of Afghanistan when it fell, and some people out of Haiti, where there were some events happen.
Right.
I can't really think of many where an elected representative has flown down. I mean, the most famous one I can remember is a congressman, I don't remember his name, who flew down to Guyana to check on Jim Jones.
Jonestown
and
tragedy.
And they didn't make it off the airport.
It's terrible. Yes.
Yeah, because they were murdered at the airport. But do you think this guy was legit? He really wanted to rescue or save, or do you think this was a photo op?
I can't say what it's in his heart, but my default setting, unfortunately, it was a photo op, and I just don't. I would think of you and me, and you or me, Troy, in some situation, some foreign country. I mean, if this person was our congressman, our representative, would they get in a plane and fly to wherever we might be incarcerated? Name the country. I just don't think so. I think this is, again, to your original premise, it's just another way to get at what Trump's trying to do with the deportations, and I think it's just a way to put a spotlight on it and find potentially one example where somebody pick somebody to try to make a case for, and say, oh well, they're all like, I don't know. That's unfortunately, I'm jaded. I'll just admit it, and that's my default setting.
Well, I mean,
and he's a politician, so
yeah, it's even more doubtful. Right. I mean, it'd be different if the person that they sent down there was legit, like Bob Jones from down the street, and he just got snatched up because he was wearing a Chicago Bulls hat that day, right? Exactly. Which is apparently a sign of MS-13. Right. I mean, if he wasn't a known person who was here illegally, had been deported twice, and has MS-13 tattoos, that I could see the administration like, our bad, we need that guy back, and we're going to pay some restitution.
Sure.
But the person has broken the law, has been involved with stuff. His wife had an order of protection against him at once. He's here illegally, been living here illegally. But it's just interesting how the media, you always got to look through the narrative, right? So the media who wants him back doesn't want this to happen. They don't label him, the media on the left, should I say, they label him as a man from Maryland.
Yes, just like you or me. Just like a dude from Texas.
Right.
Walking around.
Not an illegal alien who's been deported twice.
Exactly. They leave that part out.
Yeah.
They leave that part out. Right.
It's it's like when they just spin it the way that they need to. It's it's same thing with George Floyd, right? They didn't label him or categorize him in the things he'd done in the past, beating up women, done this, drug dealer, all that stuff.
Right.
He was just this poor dude trying to cash a check in a convenience store.
And they probably showed pictures of this MS-13 alleged person, probably if they had pictures of him, probably when he's like a teenager.
No, they showed but he's smiling, he's got his family. Yeah, they're
just trying to put on this
Right.
You know, and maybe he does have a family, but I guess his day job is
something, right?
Or he's at least moonlighting as some kind of gang. I don't know.
But no, there was one case a few years ago. There was a young black man that had done some horrible crime. I don't remember. But when the left was all supportive of him, they would just show the pictures of him as like a 14 or 15-year-old child. And like the dude's like mid-20s, and he does not look that way anymore.
He's huge, probably. Right. Yeah, exactly. Intimidating.
But they do kind of spin it that way. But and same thing, the news on the right? They're calling it illegal alien, MS-13 member, all that kind of stuff. You know, I guess the media just still hasn't gotten it, even with all the failing ratings and having to let people layoffs and fire people, that all you have to really do is truly try to be unbiased, and you would win. You would be a breath of fresh air for both sides.
Yes.
If you were just like, yeah, this illegal alien guy living in Maryland and had a family, but he was still, if they just kind of went down the middle, because like you were just saying a second ago, you have your doubts for a lot of reasons, but the final one is kind of, well, it's a politician.
It's a politician, and I'm you know, God forgive me, but
so it's almost like when you hear the media, oh, it's the media, so you're automatically
did he have a media entourage with him? Because, you know, it would have been more believable if he just went down there by himself and didn't say anything until whatever the result was, and that would be more respectable, I guess. Then you could say he's doing it for the right reasons. So I don't know. I just it's hard, man. I just have to be like that. You know, but
so I mean, that's one thing. We got some other judges doing stuff. Did you hear that? And the administration isn't holding back. They're not just playing defense everywhere.
Right.
I mean, they are filing charges or recommending charges against the New York Attorney General, Latina. I can't. She's my Attorney General.
She's your Attorney General.
About, you know, FHFA has recommended charges because she has fraudulently got some loans and got some, which is funny. The thing that she went after Trump for to get a $454 million ruling.
Isn't that funny how that works?
What I've read, I don't know if and it may have been updated since then, is that a house she bought in Virginia, she listed her father as her husband, so that she would get a lower.
I didn't hear this.
Yeah, so she would get a lower rate. So her father's listed on the loan that she got, and she listed her father, name and everything, as her husband to get it.
Wow.
And I think it's happened more than once. Rob will probably correct us on some stuff, but
wow.
Yeah, it's and this is the crazy thing is this is what she went after Trump for, claiming that he, you know, remember, got fraudulent loans, overinflated what Mar-a-Lago was worth to get loans from the banks. And then, of course, he paid the banks all back. Nobody was hurt.
Right.
They made money. There was no victim. It was a victimless crime. Yet she, you know, again, shopped a judge, got a judge to go after him, and you know, got this big ruling. You know, it kind of reminds me we were in the Army. I would remember, you know, going to inspect soldiers, and before I got in like in-ranks inspection or whatever, I had to make sure my stuff was tight, right? I can't stand in front of a soldier and criticize them if they had strings hanging off the uniform, right? And I had it, or, you know, criticize them, make them do push-ups or something for their boots being scuffed or this or that when mine are that way. Like, you always have to tighten yourself up first, because you're a hypocrite if you don't.
100%. And it's,
you know,
poor example, poor leadership, everything.
Yeah, and it's like, so before you go to critique someone, and I carried that through my whole life, even still today. I was talking to some of my managers today, and I was like, look, you know, when we get, you know, you probably get this in a lot of companies, you get the mandatory training, like cybersecurity training or whatever, sexual harassment training, whatever it is, right? And it's mandatory. Everyone has to do it by a certain date. Whenever that comes out, I try to get mine done within a day or two of it coming out, so that, you know, we may have not 60 days to do it or whatever.
But so you can.
So when I ask my people that work for me or my managers that have people working for them, and I go, you get your training done, like where you're coming on a report, I can say that with a clear conscience and not be a hypocrite, because I've already done it. I'm not asking them to do anything that I would not.
You've already done it, right?
So for an attorney general to go after someone for possible criminal action, fraudulent, I guess, actions is how the way to do it. when you yourself has done the same thing, seems like a very dumb move.
But
because nothing is private. This got found by someone just doing investigating.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Wow, he's guilty. Wow, somebody was doing some investigation. Man, that's like finding Sasquatch. You know, it's like so rare. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
It wasn't a leaked
investigative journalism.
It wasn't leaked documents that should be leaked. They just went into research records, public records, and
that's amazing.
You know, because there's people on both sides, pro and anti. For example, Trump. You can hammer him, but the people that are pro-Trump are going to put some time in. You know, it's like the guests we had on a couple weeks ago from the Coolidge Reagan Foundation, right? They are going after and filing charges and complaints against, you know.
Yeah, that was a good one.
You know, AOC and Rocket Crockett and stuff. They're just, hey, you know, if you're going to say something or do something, you better make sure your ship is tight.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and speaking of attorney generals, Troy, our attorney general here in the great state of Texas, Ken Paxton, is going to primary standing U.S. Senator John Cornyn.
How's your feeling? What's the feeling on that? You think? I don't know how Cornyn's looked at here in Texas.
I think he's I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think he's looked at as like a soft, squishy Republican.
Is he kind of established like a
McConnell and Graham? I would say he's establishment with a capital E, in my opinion. But, you know, it's like, well, whoever they run up against them from the other party, you're like, well, God, so I guess Ken Paxton's, I don't know if he's going to be successful because I don't know if Ken Paxton has an inflated perspective of his potential popularity, but it's very interesting that's going on. But I thought, again, you just kind of segued into that. I was thinking about that. So
yeah, I saw that the other day that he was running. So I imagine, since they're both Republicans, he must have figured that there was he had a chance and that he could find enough people not happy with Cornyn that he could run for it.
Cornyn's done some interesting things, but we'll see. We'll see if he can tap into the.
But how do you think people feel? Because they like Ken Paxton.
He's done some. I think a lot of people hate him, but it might be the same people who would hate him.
Well, he was brought up on charges.
Yes, he was.
And apparently he's from a handful of state Republicans, legislators that were, I guess, I don't know if they were rhinos or what, but I know it was almost like they were jealous or mad or whatever, but those all got thrown out. Like there was no case.
As far as I know, there was, he's still there. So somehow, So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see. I just don't know how popular, and giving you how popular he's within the Republican power structure. And again, I don't know if that even means anything anymore. If you can tap into the populist sentiment, I guess, ride Trump's coattails or something. So that'll be really interesting. Compliment Ted Cruz for U.S. senators. That'd be really interesting. So anyway.
Yeah, because that's one guy that's had a lot of people come after and try to unseat him.
And he's not, I think, again, it may be like Ken Paxton, with him as well, where he's not popular personally, but you're like, okay, well, at least he's checking these boxes. So, we'll keep him in there because the alternative is less than optimal.
Right.
So we'll just deal with it,
But so I mean, it's just interesting when I saw this James thing, and it's like, wow, how dumb can you be to think that you can come out like that and go after somebody, and if you got any chinks in the armor, they're going to find that Achilles heel.
But what you said earlier is like when you were in the Army, so you're instilled with that notion of lead by example.
Yeah.
So, we're already convicted by that. We see that. We've transferred that to our entire life in any and all sort of facets. But these other people don't have that. So I don't think they even think about it. And even if they do, they go, well, I'm not going to get caught. Or I can make an excuse. I don't think they're even conscious of it, Troy. I think they're just doing their thing. And
maybe they think, because so many on one side or the other get away with so much because they just won't get prosecuted.
Exactly.
Or the media will spin for them.
Yes.
That
they have a safety net.
Right.
Even if they are called out on it, but a lot of people don't. Not enough people look at it like you just described, whether across all parties and positions and stuff. This whole leadership by example. Oh, I just wish it was 100 universally embraced, but it just isn't. And I think they get into positions, well, I can do it, or everybody around me is doing it, my peers are doing it, and somehow that helps to justify that what they're doing or what they intend to do. And you know, maybe there's a component, and I don't know, maybe being corrupt and doing stuff like that, maybe that's cool with some people because they want to bring the whole system down anyway. So why, hey, I'm being corrupt. Oh, okay, but I'm being corrupt against a corrupt system. So now I've just justified.
It's not like two negatives make a positive or something.
Yeah, it's like if I call you a fascist, then I can do. There's nothing I can't do to you, right? That's out of bounds, you know, because I've labeled you that. So it's the same. I think it's the same kind of thing. They can just, in the name of whatever cause or whatever the belief system is, I think they can justify it, or they think they can, to at least enough people where they can continue to. Again, that's even if they're caught, and like you said, it's even if I don't think they even think about these things. So
no, some people just have so many yes people around them,
yes,
and think that they are they're above the law. That like say that there's no way they're going to get. I mean. And they should, I mean, because even some of the most darling on the left, right? Cuomo was outed as a governor of New York.
Which is, yeah, is he going to run for mayor now or something?
He's talking about running for mayor, but there were, you know, Spitzer. So Spitzer was thrown out of the governor of New York. David Patterson, who was blind, was thrown out for governor of New York. Cuomo's thrown out for governor of New York.
I mean, how bad do you have to be, Troy, to be thrown out
of a state that's so blue?
It's like deep blue. Yeah. It's like midnight blue, if I may quote Lou Graham.
So I mean, just I only picked New York because obviously there's a number of governors. The attorney general works for the governor. Below that, they appoint them and stuff, or they get, you know, they support them. But it's so if they can get popped for doing things, it's anybody can.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing that, I guess in that case though, maybe they've just pissed off someone in the Democratic machine. You know, enough to where they're willing to risk, hey, we're going to remove this person, and but we've got an ample supply of replacements that will be more, that we think we can more readily control. Maybe that, I think that's a lot of part of it. I think that's part of it too.
Right.
This guy, this person's they're getting out of their swim lane, so we need to reel them back in, and if that doesn't work, then we'll go nuke on them. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and speaking of governors, we also have the governor of Maine.
Oh, right.
Who is fighting the administration on Maine. Apparently they're saying, you know, Maine has 2 incidents of males playing on female sports, and they're trying to downplay it as saying, well, it's only 2. But, you know, 1 is too many to be in a girl's locker room and that kind of stuff. And, you know, she publicly, the governor of Maine, you know, got into a tiff when she was at the White House with a bunch of other governors about, you know, see you in court. And again, but another case where they went and got a judge because they stripped their funding from the state of Maine, which is how everything is done. A lot of people don't realize that the federal government is only allowed to do what the U.S. Constitution says they have to do, or that states are not allowed to do. And then everything else goes to the states. That's the 10th Amendment. But, you know, for example, there's nothing in the Constitution that says the government is allowed to regulate guns, right? Don't even mention guns, the Second Amendment, that regulate the transfer, sale, or whatever. So what does the government do? They spin and use the Interstate Commerce Clause as a way to enforce guns being sold and all that stuff. Right. And when states back in the day, when you and I were younger, when 55 had just been introduced as a speed limit, there were states like Nevada, Wyoming, different ones that did not, and that's when they were mandated. Everyone had to be at 55 miles an hour.
Energy crisis.
States that did not want to go with that, the government just said, well, we'll cut off your transportation funding, right? If states didn't want to do stuff in their schools, they would we'll cut off your Department of Education funding.
That's the leverage they have.
That's all they have.
That's the tool in their toolbox.
So when the government now, and this has always been the accepted standard, so when the government now says, look, you need to make sure women are, you know, enforce Title IX, and women are not playing on, or men are not playing in women's sports and going to women's bathrooms. If you do, we're going to cut off your funding. Now they do that, still carrying on a tradition that's been done for decades.
But now, and
they're like, oh, you can't do that. A judge steps in and says, you're not allowed to do this, and you got to return funding back to them. And it's, you know, it's, you know, the rules for thee, not for me.
Absolutely. Back to what we were talking about before. You know, it's just unbelievable. Lead not by example.
Right.
Is their touchstone.
And so you know, they're doing that now, and all the present administration is doing is the same thing that every previous administration going back that I can remember has done to enforce something that the federal government wants.
Yep.
When they want something done, but it doesn't say in the Constitution that they're allowed to, so they find another way to do it.
Exactly.
And it's always by withholding funding.
Absolutely. That's their.
So now you got this Maine governor, they're filing lawsuits and all this kind of stuff. But I just thought it was interesting that this governor, you know, she's got a safe face. She's going to go down fighting.
Of course, right.
But that they're doing
She'll
the whole
be a
thing
hero.
of their whole thing of, well, it's only 2. If your daughter's on that school, that one of that is fine. That's enough.
Right. One is enough. Right. Only one time. Right. So she'll get a keynote speakership at the next Democratic convention in 2030, I guess.
Well,
or
no,
2028.
2028. So 2027. Right. Yeah, probably so.
She'll get it.
And
that's the reward.
Right. It's standing up, and
I stood up to bad orange man.
Right. You know that now the new term they use for him is bully. I think
he's a bully
James. Yeah, it's all bully. They burned out fascists and Nazi. No one's listening to that. So now they're playing on bully, and that stuff, which is, you know, again, the term is when the president gets up and speak and enforces things, they call it the bully pulpit, because they're using their power as a chief executive to influence change. We lost our connection. I think we're back.
Wow. Are we getting? That's intrusion, man. That's the eye. One of the eyes in Niji.
I think your Wi-Fi was. I think you were getting jammed.
I'm getting jammed now. We must be speaking truth to power.
Speaking truth,
because we're getting intruded and jammed and. Well, thank goodness the countermeasures. We jumped to an alternate freak and we're good now.
The jammer is kicked in.
The SOP is.
If I look out the window and a drone is out there,
the commo SOP is just working.
We've got other problems.
Maybe it's an AI commo SOP. It's just implemented auto-magically.
There we go.
Awesome. It's awesome.
So, speaking of drone and flying and all that stuff, do you see this thing with the whole Blue Origin space flight the other day?
No, tell me about it.
You didn't?
I guess I missed that one.
The all-female crew.
All-female crew
that went up in Bezos's penis-shaped rocket and launched out of Texas. How did you not know about this? I mean,
I don't keep up with Amazon and Bezos.
Yeah. So.
Oh my God.
So
the headlines write themselves.
They do. It was very much awesome.
I got a lot of ideas going that I can't.
So
I'll say for myself,
it was an all-female crew, so it was kind of touted as like, oh, it's all well. They're not like flying it; they're not real.
Right. They just kind of
they're riding.
Right.
They're on a ride.
Right.
And he was Bezos's girlfriend, Katy Perry. They were probably the biggest names. Gail King from CBS.
Gail King.
Yeah, and a couple other ladies that one's like a former rocket scientist and stuff like that, and everything. So I mean, some people that have really worked in the industry and done something, but also. The ones that grabbed the headlines were Bezos's Laura Sanchez and Katy Perry.
Sure.
Right. They've already done several of these Blue Origin flights, or William Shatner.
Yeah, William Shatner did it a couple years ago.
And they've done some women have went up, and so they, Bezos' girlfriend redesigned their suits, the blue suits, so they're very form-fitting. They're made for females, that kind of stuff, right?
Are they going to do like a calendar with them in their suits?
I don't know.
They get enough? Did they have enough to do 12 months?
They don't. They only had, I think there were like 6 of them.
Well, maybe they each get 2 months.
Yeah,
that's the problem solved.
Well, so you funny you mention that. So some of the criticism were there were a lot of photo ops beforehand, and actually that's a lot of controversy to the whole thing. Are pictures and recordings. But there were a lot of photo ops beforehand, and apparently a lot of people found proof of, a lot of airbrushing and photoshopping and all that.
I thought that was evil, Troy. I thought that was the industry giving women anyway unattainable standards.
So what's interesting is that they went up, right? You get just over the crest, like 65.5 miles or something, just over the crest of what's considered space. Right?
Okay.
They don't really go far enough out where they come back in. They're doing re-entry heat, right? They're just at the edge, and it essentially launches them up, and they've got like 4 minutes of weightlessness.
Okay. And
they just kind of bounce around and hang out, and their hair goes everywhere, and then it starts, and they're shooting it up, and it's coming back down, right? What's interesting is that the rocket is reusable, right? So you have 2 things happening. It launches. The head The head of it.
See, the head, okay.
The head comes off, and the rocket comes back and lands on its right. So it's doing its thing. The rocket is coming down just like SpaceX does, and it lands on a pad. So that's reusable. Okay. So the tip, the tip breaks off.
It's the most sensitive part
of the rocket or shaft. I'm just telling you how it works. You can see video.
This is just like being in the FDC. This is okay. Yeah. So the shaft. Tell me about the tip. I'm very interested.
The tip comes off.
Tip.
They float around in the tip, right? For 4 minutes, and then the tip comes down.
4 minutes. That's impressive. Anyway.
Yeah. That's kind of the funny, right? The whole thing went up. That was my joke. When happening was, they went up in a penis-shaped rocket. It lasted 4 minutes.
And then everybody's ecstatic. Are they like smoking cigarettes when they landed? That kind of thing.
Because we're getting to that. Okay. They didn't smoke cigarettes, but there's other controversy there. So they come down, parachutes, it hits the desert. Poof! Big cloud of smoke lands in the desert. Right. So they got that, but they had the gall. So a couple of things. One, a lot on the left that are, liberal, high up, very influential actors, people, whatever, musicians, women all came out criticizing them.
Really?
Because they said, with all the things going on in the environment, because the cost is $28 million.
I bet it puts a hole in the ozone layer.
I don't know if it's $28 million per person or $28 million total for you to fly in this flight. That's how much you have to pay.
Right.
But they paid all this money, and a lot of people on the left are like, there's so many causes, it's so many things that money could have helped people.
Can't disagree with them.
And the other thing is, like, with all the stuff with the environment, all that stuff, like, you just burned all that fuel.
I was going to say, what's the carbon footprint?
The carbon footprint, it probably outdoes Taylor Swift's private jet.
What's the equivalent? Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So they go up, they float for 4 minutes, spend all this money, float 4 minutes, come back down, right? Because not only does this rocket go up, it comes back down. It's still using fuel for the shaft
to land,
for the shaft to hit the base,
for the resolution stage.
Yes, exactly.
In the whole. Yes. Yeah, the climax.
Yeah, it climaxed off and then it floats around.
There's a build up. There's a climax, and there's the resolution phase.
The jokes write themselves.
Oh my God!
So they come back, and they all. So when the big controversy, well, a couple of things, but the big controversy is, cameras are on it, and someone opened the door. They opened it from the inside. So there's a lot of people that know things about space and planes and pressurization, a lot of people on the social medias who are going, they're thinking this is fake. They're all like, it's all made up, fake, all stuff, because you can see on the camera they open the door and they're not supposed to be open from the inside. And there's a lady there, like, working with Bezos' crew, and she yelled, and they shut it. Right, and then they go bring a ladder, and Bezos comes with a big tool to unlock
to make it all dramatic.
Yeah, to unlock the door, and then the door opens up. But they caught all that video. This lady on the outside yelled at them, and the door shut. Like, shut the door. You're not supposed to. We gotta let Big Daddy Jeff open this up.
It's all
it has done nothing but fed the conspiracy theories that it wasn't real, it was fake.
That's just like the Apollo landing, right? Faked it. But I've had Air Force Base.
But I've seen some news where people are like, after the accident of Apollo, when the astronauts got burned up on the inside, I think
Apollo 1.
Yeah,
Apollo 1.
That they put in that even with pressurization, the space program put in because they were stuck, they couldn't get out.
Right. They couldn't.
They put in a latch or handle system where they could open from the inside. Pretty much once it's depressurized, because obviously when it's pressurized, you can't open the door. Right. But they did it where it's depressurized. They put it where you could have a handle, so if there was another accident like that. So again, I'm not a I haven't studied every part of the space program, but some people come back and say, look, I'm sure they have to do the same thing, or they follow the same best practice.
Right.
There is a way, but the thing is not so much whether that was really real or not, but it's just that we got to close it and wait for him to come with a big wrench,
make it all dramatic, and
so the man had to come let the women out.
Oh my God, he opened the door for him. we can't be opening doors for women. That's this day and age.
You put a bunch of women, spend a lot of money
in a phallic symbol,
in a very phallic symbol, a big one. That the tip comes off, the shaft comes down, they float around for 4 minutes, their hair's going crazy. They come back down,
and then they
destroy the environment, the carbon footprint.
They have the afterglow after doing the rocket ride.
Yep, they come down, but it takes a man. That woman was there. She could have taken the tool.
Sure, why didn't she?
But it had to be Big Daddy Bezos.
Big Daddy Bezos had to get the women out.
He had to let them out. I got to. Let me open the door for you. Right? So they come out. It's not over.
Oh my God, there's more?
At least 2 or 3 of them. I don't know if all of them. Maybe Rob will tell us. They came out and they got on their hands and knees and kissed the ground. Like they were stuck in space for maybe 9 months. They were in space for 4 minutes. The whole ride is 11 minutes. The whole ride. We've been talking about this more in 11 minutes.
Yes.
The whole ride is 11 minutes from launch through climax and ending. And they get happy. So they put this little stairwell up to them, and they get off, and they like Katy Perry did it, Gayle King did it, and they get down and kiss the ground like, oh, I've missed you, Mother Earth.
I've been in like those astronauts
like
up
the
in
2 astronauts
yeah, they were marooned up
that
there.
Elon Musk had to go save.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And like they should probably, because they weren't on speed like a week. They only packed like a week's worth of underwear, and they were stuck up there for 9 months.
Yeah.
That'd be like, I'm so glad I made it back alive.
Absolutely.
They were up there for 4 minutes at the edge of space, and they kissed the ground. And now, some of them, I know Gayle King's one, is all upset and hurt and confused that social media, everyone and their own lefty liberals have all launched back at them and given them a hard time. It could have been that she compared herself and this trip to the trip that Neil Armstrong did.
No way.
Yep.
She did.
Yep.
It's the equivalent.
Because people said they were just on a ride, and she came back and said, well, they said that about him too. He just did a ride. It's no different than us and Neil Armstrong.
Wow.
Like I said, they just keep adding on.
Unbelievable.
They're pissing off everyone and giving stuff for people to talk about.
So much ammo. Again, back to they have no self-awareness.
Yeah.
They have no
read the room.
They have no way to gauge themselves. So, oh, I went to space, so I am now whatever. I'm equivalent to whatever space pioneers, Russian or American or whatever. Like, just get over yourselves. Yeah.
Several weeks ago, my good friend we've had on the show before, Chuck, was on our Lima Charlie show, and he sent me a quote the other day, and I don't know if he's the originator of it, but it was classic. He sent to me the other day, which pretty much said, "Wow, if going into space for 4 minutes makes you an astronaut, I'm a gynecologist."
Absolutely.
And I thought, if that's what it takes to call yourself an astronaut because you just go up in space for 4 minutes.
Well, in this day and age, you can just declare yourself anything, Troy.
Well, you can.
So that's even more plausible.
But to compare yourself to Neil Armstrong, to come down and kiss the ground like you wouldn't have made it back, or you almost didn't make it back.
Like you just got released from being a hostage or something.
You open the door, but oh crap, we got to give a good photo op and close the door so our savior man can open the door for us with his big wrench,
with his big tool,
to
just open the door,
cranking that tool to let him out of the tip. I mean, I'm just now
only a man can do.
I did see something from a friend of mine that said only would have been better if the door's on top and they ejected them out.
They shoot them out
right out the tip, right out of the top. Yeah.
Maybe that's on the. That's a requirement.
That's version 2.
That's right. They're going to upgrade it to that.
Yeah. And you stand on a platform and shoot you out the top. But yeah, so it's.
Oh my gosh.
It is. But it's. I mean, it's cool. You got to do it. That's cool.
Yeah,
you didn't do it for the advancement of anything STEM, right? In fact, that's some of those sayings like, "This isn't STEM. This is glam."
Oh, so this isn't inspiring more young women.
No, the people that were on this trip, the women that were, some of them are claiming like they are now inspiration, especially like Katy Perry, for young women that they can reach space and they can do that. Well, there's already been women in space. In fact, we've lost women going up, like
the Challenger,
real astronauts that trained and were scientists and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
None of them on here except maybe the lady that worked for NASA and was a rocket scientist.
Yes,
she earned her spot.
She's legit,
right. But to say, I mean, that'd be like when William Shatner did and come back. It's like, I'm an inspiration for all actors we have went to space and beyond. It's like, but Elon Musk's, roadster with the Rocket Man in the roadster that's still flying around.
That's right. It's still
that dude's more of an astronaut.
he should kiss the ground if he ever burns in.
But you know,
burns back in.
The no one's going to graffiti that roadster.
No,
they don't have to worry about anyone drawing, scratching, keying it or anything. But for them to go up there and be so full of themselves,
it's again lack of self-awareness. Just no appreciation for the plot, and they could have used this for I don't know. I'm more interested in these. I got to get pictures of these form-fitting suits because that's going to be really interesting.
Oh, they're all over. You can Google that.
Really, I'm going to Google that.
They all over.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I may have to just find it.
Are they exploiting themselves?
Well, they're definitely.
Are they dressing for each other, or are they dressing for? Oh yeah, they look. Oh my God, it looks like the Spice Girls went to space. It looks like the scene from the Spice Girls movie. Yeah.
Spice Girls go to space. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I think this lady, she's like the rocket scientist, and this one is I forget what she is or whatever.
Unbelievable.
But, you know, Katy Perry's there, Gail King. There's Basil's girlfriend Sanchez. Yeah, it's just amazing that
it was called a flight. It was called a journey.
Yeah. But
oh goodness,
and there's nothing frivolous about what they did. Well, you spent $28 million to burn up a lot of fuel to go up there, and I'm sure it was cool. I wish I had the money.
Sure, that would be the ultimate like amusement park
to go
ride.
As a tourist and go to in space for 4 days,
zero gravity for a while.
Yeah, and hang out
and
then come back down and be like, that'd be the ultimate like theme park.
Sure, ride. Absolutely.
Some people get in the thing that rubber bands them up and they bounce up and down, or they get pulled up and dropped and all that stuff.
Right.
I mean, the problem is the price of a ticket is a little high. I don't know if they have a fast pass for that.
Maybe it's like flat screen TVs. Maybe it'll trickle down, and maybe it'll be at Universal or Disney in like 5 to 10 years. They'll do something like that.
They'll probably make one to simulate that.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, just interesting. All that happened. There's all these people, and they spent this money, and even their own people on the left just aren't going to let go of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. So they're just eating themselves because you're not politically correct enough, and it's wow. There's no slack, man. There's no mercy on that.
But at least there's people that aren't just giving them a pass because they're also left, right? They're calling them out on their anti-environmental stuff. They're calling them, and which a lot of people do all the time when Leonardo DiCaprio or something takes a private jet over to a conference in Europe
to Davos or something, to tell us to preach to us how to be back to leading by example. Leading by example, yeah.
So it's it was just interesting. I think they thought they were just going to get a little flight in, and it'd be cool, and they got a great.
And they were going to get raved, and it's very interesting. They're getting probably the most flack from their own side. Like. It's almost like fratricide, I guess.
So they got these cool, uniforms or costumes.
They should go on tour. Maybe they can go on tour with that. I think they should. They should consider like Spice Girls too, or whatever. Come up with
I'm sure there'll be some books coming. They could do some book signing tours. They could, Katie could be the lead singer, and the rest could be just the backup dancers.
Right. Awesome.
They could.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. That's what this country needs right now. That would bring us together.
Would it bring together?
I think it would unite
against them, or just they would unite.
From their perspective, they're bringing people together, all different.
Well, as far as they're concerned, they laid the groundwork for little girls to go to space.
I'm inspired.
If they had $28 million,
I'm gonna go to Texas A&M here, the local campus, and I'm gonna look up some STEM classes because I'm so motivated.
You sound they're wasting their money, or you got some money, you just go to. So you don't need to.
You don't need to study. You just need to throw enough money.
You just need a big old sugar daddy who'll
let you out of it.
Is that not
who'll use the tool to get you out?
When you're the girlfriend of the guy that owns it, just get you a big old sugar daddy that is super sugar.
So what's that do for women, advancing women's?
It does send a message, doesn't it?
It does send a message.
Now, neither one of us. Daddy. I don't know. We're not probably the. We can probably only say so much.
I only have a little sugar. I don't have a big bowl.
But we can identify as whatever we want.
Absolutely.
But
you are free to be you and me, man.
Yeah. So maybe
your freak flag fly.
But that's said a lot of times. But yeah, it just it is interesting that like I say, it's like I said, they're eating
they're eating their young. Their own, I should say. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Just sit back and watch.
And that they're upset because that people don't see them the way they see themselves.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Oh, God forbid they don't see me the way I'm so important. I'm so influential. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah. You saw the other day, still, I just want to hit on aviation stuff is still in the news.
What is?
Apparently, we just had a United Airlines flight too, just hit wildlife. They said and had to return to airport.
Okay.
But this helicopter thing the other day in New York.
I mean,
that video was
just like the rotors.
Did you watch the one I sent you where it's fine and you just see it come apart
and you see and then the blades fall.
They come on their own.
They eventually fall back to the. I'm like, what happened?
Now I talked to a good friend of mine that was an Army helicopter pilot for years. Now he flies jets, and he had told me that. I mean, there's a term for it, but not obviously he doesn't know, but he knows enough of being a pilot for as long as he was that. And I read it somewhere, it kind of supported what he said, which is those two-bladed rotors, which that was. Okay. If a pilot pulls back really hard or does a very aggressive move that causes the rotors are going around. So if that's the plane of the rotors, that causes them they'll dip enough in the back that they'll literally cut the tail boom off.
Holy crap!
So he said that helicopter is known for that. That bell, it's a two-bladed one. If you pull or do this, it can actually the tilt of the rotors will go all the way down where the motor cuts now. And I thought, okay, maybe that was it. But then when you see the rotors intact,
right,
on the main
like they
rotor, the rotor shaft, they're together, that they're still connected, and it's just spinning all the way down. I didn't see where. Now, granted, that maybe they got cut off at the same. They look like they're the same length, and they're just spinning. But I mean, if he didn't do something like that, maybe a wind shear hit him or something, or whatever, or then something
just failed.
A majority of the tail, the boom of the tail that goes all the way out, that has the tailboard on it, came off, and the entire shaft and engine mount where the rotors are came off. I mean, it seems a severe failure, of the airframe to happen at the same time. Because even if the tail boom fell off, right, what would happen is without a tail rotor to counteract the spinning of the blades in one direction, the thing would just spin its way in.
Auto
it would just, because the spinning blades would cause it to turn, and they would just pass out, and it would go in. But the tail boom came off, and the entire rotor shaft came off.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know.
And so I know they're looking for part, but you just see that and you go, man, you got that. We had the helicopter, Army Black Hawk
thing. You had the thing in Philadelphia?
In Philadelphia with the air ambulance, and you had, you had a plane the other day, unfortunately, a private plane in upstate New York that took out, this 2022 Women of the NCAA Woman of the Year. Her parents, both doctors, it took all them out. You had the plane that crashed up in Alaska, which they determined was 1,000 pounds overweight when it crashed up there and killed everyone. There was another plane last week in Orlando that crashed on the highway, or in Florida. Florida crashed on. It's like,
what? The sky is literally falling. Yeah, it's like, what's the new transportation secretary?
You have a plane
that's really busy right now.
Dude, right after he took over.
Yeah, like the next.
Let's talk about Toronto. The plane hitting and rolling over on itself.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah. I mean, I flew about 2 weeks after that on the same jet, because Delta flies a lot of those CRJ. And when I landed, and I was like, sweet, landed our wheels down.
I'm sorry.
We didn't roll.
I'm sorry.
I mean, luckily that one, no one got killed or hurt on, but it was like, but I mean, that thing, I mean, that's obviously not far from where I live. I was working, and literally the first second I saw news reports on it before it ever made the mainstream media, because that thing just hit and rolled. But it's, obviously it's not, and of course the left, immediately, again, Secretary Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, had taken over just days before the DC one.
Right.
And like days before,
he's hopping now.
A week before the inauguration, because I was there. It was like 5 or 6 days after the inauguration. And of course they were like, oh, look, he's laying everyone off. Oh, that's it. It's like, and then they even tried to do that for the Canada, like, oh, they're playing crash in Canada because what Trump did. It's like,
it all goes back to Trump. Everything was Bush's fault.
Right.
Yeah. Same thing.
And so they're
Let
me go back.
Just a slight blip.
Man, they're trying to jam us.
I guess it's Trump's fault.
Yeah.
That's why we can't get through this uninterrupted.
But so they, they're back to Sean Duffy's been very busy, but they have and it's not like, the media's just covering. Like, there's just a number. We've had a couple planes, at least 2, if not 3, since the inauguration that have clipped each other on runways.
What the?
I mean, is it burnout? Are they DEI hires? Are they hiring unqualified people?
Yeah,
because
it's starting to connect some dots to at least. Yeah, that's extremely concerning.
The just
frequency is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of people get worried about air travel. I've flown a lot. You've flown a lot. And I really have. And, when the people say it's the safest way to travel, it is. There's definitely a lot more car crashes. Right. Problem is, when it's a plane crash, it gets so much attention.
Big news, right?
I mean, if you want to all you do is go any day or go on a flight away or anything and just see that hundreds, if not thousands of flights every day that go across this country.
What's going on right now?
Not even saying globally, that do just fine. You never hear about it.
Right.
But when it happens and planes roll over on their top and, streaming fuel down the runway, or you have, a plane run into a helicopter, you sit there and, people go, oh my goodness, what's going on? It's still a super safe way to fly.
Sure.
In some of these, obviously, there's no connection, whether, I don't know if they have determined what happened on the air ambulance.
Right.
But,
I haven't heard anything on that.
That and a plane crashing in Alaska overweight, and this, a plane crashing in the field. I mean, there's just it happens, but man, it seems to be more smaller private ones.
Right.
Those full blown commercial.
Maybe we've been really lucky and things are just catching up to us. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to do.
Yeah. So hopefully when I fly home this week, I'm good all the way there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be praying for you, brother.
Well, every time when I fly, people are like, "How was your flight?" I'm like, uneventful.
It's right. That's the best kind.
Quiet.
It's like going to see the doctor. See, when I go see the doctor, I want to be barely on the spectrum to even have to see the dude. Like, whether it's the dentist or whoever. Doug, I don't even know why you're here.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barely on the spectrum. Same with flying. Like, man, that was like so unbelievably boring.
Yeah, dude, that's what you want.
That's what you want. So.
No, it just was crazy seeing all this and seeing that the helicopter. Thankfully we had the video to see that helicopter in New York just completely disintegrate in midair.
It's unbelievable. Yeah,
I can't believe I haven't seen more conspiracy theorists about that. Like,
I bet. I bet there's
the way the conspiracy theorists are still about 9/11. I can't believe they haven't
I know some people who
but you probably do. Family
who want to meet some that really want. It's one of that's a big one. The moon landings, 9/11,
the all-girl Bezos trip.
The all-girl, that just made the list. That's up there with the Fed, and the Illuminati and the Templars.
When you got tips and shafts and things like that happening, it just
we had happy endings.
And it happened. They were happy. They all kissed the ground. And a man opened the door for him.
He made all 5 women very happy. That's impressive.
At once.
That's what a stuff. Maybe that's pretty impressive.
You own Amazon. Do anything.
He's no young chick either. Man.
So anything
past his prime, if I could use it.
Ooh, I bet you
Amazon Prime.
I bet you he gets his. I bet he gets an unlimited supply of Hims or Blue Chews or whatever.
I'm sure he has supplements.
Yeah.
I'm sure he has supplements that are unavailable to the likes of you and me.
So do you have anything before we wrap up? Any other?
All I want to do is just kind of remember. We got Good Friday coming up, and we got Easter coming up. So at least for me, I'm trying to focus on what that's about and who it's about, and kind of keep it in perspective with everything that we kind of talked about before this that's going on, and try to balance that out and say, all right, he's in charge. I just need to focus more on that and less on whatever lame concerns.
Less on those first world problems
I have right now. That what I'm worried about right now, in probably 5 minutes or 5 weeks, wasn't worth anything. Wasn't even worth talking about.
Right.
So that's what I pray for. So that's kind of first and foremost on my mind.
No, that's Tying into that, I just saw a news story that some members of couple different congressmen or whatever have introduced a bill to, it probably won't be in time for this coming up Monday, but they're trying to make the day after Easter, the Monday after Easter, a federal holiday.
Sweet, because I mean, at my work,
because Canada, New Zealand, Australia, UK, there's countries on the globe. It is a holiday.
Yeah, Friday's off too for a lot of
places.
For a lot of secular countries.
Now, the federal government employees are off, right? And the banks are, and the schools are, and all that kind of stuff. But for it's not a mandated holiday. And even some friends of mine from Canada have said, man, they're like, you guys are a Christian nation built on that, and we have it off. They have Friday.
They have Friday and Monday. I know. I have customers up there, and they're. Well, this has been it's been a slow week in general.
Yeah, so it's interesting that
like spring break or something.
It seems a little late, but if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen.
That would be I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, to make it
that would be awesome.
They're not doing the Friday yet, but they're just saying the Monday after to get it. Because the one thing he pointed out was you have President's Day off in February. You don't have another long weekend until Memorial Day. So it gives you in that couple month time frame, you get one right in there. But
hey, look, it's a twofer. That's great.
Yeah. So
that's great.
The last thing I got, I was telling my wife, and I told her I was going to talk about this because it was just an observation I had. One night I was watching TV, and I was watching TV, watching the commercials and all that stuff, and I kind of had a thought, and I was like, man, when I was a kid, when I was little, I used to think, because of what I just saw around me and what I heard and stuff, and I mean little, like, elementary school and that kind of stuff. One, I thought quicksand was going to be a big thing to worry about when I got older. Okay. Because it seemed like every TV show from Star Trek to this to that, Rat Patrol, all this stuff.
Like Rat Patrol and Land of the Lost.
Right.
Yeah.
Like quicksand seemed like it was a
big deal.
It was a big risk.
Big concern.
I don't know where quicksand was going to be, but it seemed like that was something I was going to have to really keep an eye out for in my life as I got to be an adult. And I thought everyone as an adult had dentures. Like I thought people just didn't brush their teeth good because it seemed like parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts. It seemed like it was always, the teeth in the jar, the edge of the.
But it motivated you though, right?
It motivated. It was just like my thought was like,
proper dental hygiene.
It's like I guess when you get up in your 30s and 40s, like you just lose all your teeth and everyone just has dentures. Like but it was because of commercials I was seeing and what I was seeing around me.
Right. You're just affected by all that.
There's probably other things that I thought, but those two kind of stood out. Was like quicksand's a real problem I got to worry about as a grown adult. I hope I don't die from that. And like
teeth.
Everyone loses their teeth and you just get nice new sets of fake teeth to put in. In looking what I'm looking at today, I seem to think that the kids today, if I were to pick two things today that little kids, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old are probably through all their influences if they were to have two things that they assume what it's going to be like or whatever. One is probably that, wow, it doesn't matter how you're born. You can be whatever. You can pick whatever you want. You can change it. Like you may have been named Johnny as a little boy, but you're allowed to be Susie as a little girl. And guess what? The school's going to change the name for you, and they're going to call it. They probably think, wow, you can just be whatever you want to be.
They're going to accommodate you. Yeah, everything.
And so I think they probably think that there's no, and the fact that there's no real rules, like everything's waivable.
Sure.
Right.
It's
almost like
there's no guardrails.
If that's not a solid constant, then not what is.
There's no right or wrong.
Right. So you can do whatever.
There's no.
And the other one is that they must think that every adult has erectile dysfunction
because of,
hymns, Blue Chews. I mean, remember when Viagra came out? It was like a big deal. You joke with someone that when they at their 50th birthday party, you're like, "Hey, I gotta get them Viagra now," or something, And that was it. You watch TV today.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what TV channel you watch, especially in the evenings. I would say 1 or 2 out of every 5 commercials
has to do with
some kind of erectile dysfunction pill you can get. You don't have to have a doctor. You go to the website. They send them to you at the house discreetly. I was telling my wife that, and she was cracking up. She was like, "I can't believe it." I was like, "Well, when you watch it, that's all you see." They probably think, "Wow." Everybody, I was thinking everyone had dentures when they got older. Kids today must be thinking everyone needs boner pills.
They can't keep it up after a certain time.
You're talking about Bezos, made me think of this, so I want to mention.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's how Bezos deals with it.
But it's like, they must think that no rules apply. Nothing is for sure.
Right.
You can be whatever you can call yourself whatever you want.
No limits.
Accept it.
No limits.
And that everybody has ED.
Yeah. That's a very interesting. That's a very interesting observation. We should get Rob in that and see if he can get some data, and we can.
So
see if we can.
With that,
yeah,
I think we covered a lot of topics.
We did. Right? Outstanding show. Thank you so much.
Yes,
for allowing me on. I appreciate it.
And allowing your house
at
to
the
be
G-Town Jump Talk.
At the G-Town Jump Talk.
This is what it's called now.
I want to thank everyone for joining us and watching and listening. Hopefully you found it entertaining, maybe enlightening and educational.
Sure. Hope so.
Doug is going to be checking out the Bezos flight here in a second and learning all about it.
I'm going to start making my own calendar for that. Put it on the internet.
Sell it on Amazon.
Capitalism, baby.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
Sell it on Amazon. So with that, again, thank you, everybody. We have guests already. I think we are booking out through May. I knew I was traveling this week, so I wanted to just do a one-on-one show. But I think we're booking now well into May. So we have a lot of guests coming up. Of course, we still have our Lima Charlie series. I want to thank you all for that, for tuning in on Tuesday nights. Hopefully, if you haven't checked it out, we had Doc Simpson just the other day. And last week we had Travis Wilson from Alpha Elite Performance. So be sure and check those out. Thank you guys so much, and for giving us some of your time. And
amen.
Thursday night.
All right. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Amen. God bless everyone.
So I got to do my production work. So let me do.
I'm gonna have to go let my dogs out. Yo, what's up, man?
And.